Hello everybody, back with the next part of my videos here for my warehouse in Fallout 4. I kind of want to keep this video as an explanation to why I did some of the things that I did that are related to the ammo plant and just some manufacturing in general. One of the things I wanted to touch on first was the recipe rather than the switch. What I mean by this is most ammo plants that I see, you basically go to the terminal, you tell it you want to build 10mm rounds, then you go flip on the switch that says 10mm rounds. Then the ammunition that takes the same recipe of components all are listed under that same switch. Well, that's fine and dandy and it works well, but I would rather have the control over the individual components. Basically a recipe, so you tell it you need to make 10mm rounds, and it says it needs, copper and fertilizer or whatever it needs. And so you go turn on copper and fertilizer. The reason why I did that is because when I originally was building the warehouse, I wanted it to be to where I could sort all 31 components of the game and send each one of them to any of the different forges or ammo plants or anything, and have the ability to make everything that the game can make just based on giving it the right recipe and programming in the terminal exactly what it is I want to make. I would automate which forge or plant or whatever I had on as far as the delivery to it. So you're going to need a ton of like Y splits in the manufacturing belts with all kinds of different gates that have it go which direction and everything for you to go to the the right different plants and different, all of that. Well, it just got way too big, or it would have been way too big. First I did it with just 6 components, but of course I have manufacturing extended and I realized I needed to do it with 10. So recently I expanded the warehouse, and which actually kind of prompted redoing some of these videos. And then making that stuff work. So a lot more wiring went on, a lot more stuff went on. It'd be almost ridiculous to do it with all 31 components of the game. And then to feed them into each one of the forges and each one of the mills and each one, no, it'd just be insane. And part of the reason it'd be nuts is because I wanted to do it in a dual system. So ammo plant 1, that side would have all the weapons manufacturing. Ammo plant 2, that side would have all of the armor manufacturing and so on and so forth. Or in theory, I could run 2 ammo plants at once. Well, as you can see, that's massive. This is a dual ammo plant setup with 10 components. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the sorters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So to do this with 31 components and then have them feed into Y belts, split belts or whatever, intersection, whatever you want to call them. I forget what they're called, actually, whatever. Anyways, then having them all get traveled to the right spot and then collecting all the things that they make into one location and having it all come back to one spot. I'd have to have it 3 floors higher than what it is, 3 or 4 floors higher than what it is. And that'd just be insane. It'd just be way too big. Or I'd have to make it quite a bit longer. I already don't like the design kind of the outside of it, that it just seems to be mostly big and square. But it works. I'm not starting over, to say the least. So that's the reason why I did the recipe system. Now, another reason why I did the recipe instead is because I've been in some real, manufacturing plants before. specifically ones that make different chemicals out of copper and stuff like that. And typically the computer systems inside those are designed to set up a product that you want to make, and then the manual stuff that actually moves the product to the different mills and to the different, baggers and compressors and different things, that kind of stuff is usually done by manual switches. So it's still kind of a recipe system, and so it seemed more realistic to me to do it that way as well. So another thing about the ammo plants is that they are dual ammo plants. The wiring for this one and the wiring for this one are completely separate. That's why you see everything is doubled up here. Copper, circuitry, so on and so forth. And that's why I have a terminal here and a terminal here to control each ammo plant. It's also why we have a fusion core for one and a fusion core for another. And of course the switches that turn each one of them's power on. One more thing. That's weird. One more thing is, I knew that I'd be bringing components into storage over there, workshop storage, and they'd be things like, lamps and typewriters and all the different wonderful junk in the game. And I knew that if I sent them into a recycler, they're going to go in as one item and come out as 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever. So I knew there'd be a bottleneck there. What I did, put out the little tripwire that adjusts this branch, that's what they're called, branch to feed alternatively between these two recyclers. So every time an item goes through, it just basically changes the arm to one way or the other. It works fairly well, kind of alternates pretty well. So I can have all kinds of items going into these, all kinds of items coming out, and it's not going to bottleneck anymore. Each one of them has their own elevator that goes up to the sorting belt, which then of course goes to different sorters for copper, fertilizer, lead, all of these 10 different components. Which how I built it then sends them down into these storage containers. Okay? And out of the storage containers, you can turn on either ammo plant 1's vacuum hoppers. Actually, that'd be number 2's. Or ammo plant 1's vacuum hoppers. All of those are fed on a belt on the outside. That ammo plant. All of these are fed on a belt on the inside into that ammo. Let's see. Same over here. The ones on the outside are with the ones on the outside over there. Ones on the inside in this belt are with the ones on the inside on this belt. So basically, that's how the ammo plants get fed their different recipes. Now, once you're done with the ammo plants on making things, of course you have to have a vacuum hopper that then feeds the leftover components back into the workshop storage. Both of them in here. Once they go to workshop storage, of course, then they end up coming back up that elevator, getting sorted back through the recyclers, even though they won't over-recycle again. Then they'll come down through these and get sorted back into their storage containers, ready for the next time use. But before While we're on this subject, I wanted to tell you that, remember I told you that I manually transfer the components to each forge downstairs when I'm making, like, you know, armor or weapons or whatever. So how I do that, how I transfer from these storage containers down to the component drop hopper, or drop box rather, is that I just turn on some random ammo type in ammo plant 1. It's not going to make anything. Then I turn on the purger, but I also turn on the crossfeed. Well, this draws it every 2 seconds, and this draws it every half a second. So in theory, anything in here is going to get pulled into here. Then instead of going into conveyor storage or the workshop storage, it gets pulled into here, which feeds it into the main drop hopper, which then feeds it down into that line.
Let me know if there's anything I can do to lighten the load, or, if you need anything proofread.
Which feeds it back into the main sorting line, which feeds it into the components drop, down into either drop 1 or 2. So that's how the cross feed works. So basically that explains everything about how the ammo plants work. Of course, there's a lot of wiring for these. A lot of wiring. I guess 2 of the mods that I didn't explain when I first started, the very first part of the videos, I guess they didn't show up on the list that I was reading from, is electronics and manufacturing extended. Of course I have manufacturing extended, but the mod that really kind of made this fun for me is the mod for electronics, which allows you the ability to have insulated different types of conduits, and these fancy ones that you can put to go from up through floors and stuff. But that's pretty much what made it work really, really well for me. I made all of this much easier to do. Try my best not to have any clipping like that with wires going through stuff, but some of it's unavoidable. So that kind of explains everything about the ammo plants and how then I transfer components to those different drops to build in here or build in these 3. One other quick thing is that I do have a filter, and that filter is just these vacuum hoppers over here. I've got an auto butcher, of course, but these vacuum hoppers right here that pull items like fishing rods, brooms, things that don't go through the warehouse well, through the sorting lineup. I think that's everything for explaining kind of how it all works. Now in the next videos, I will show you it in action. So thanks for watching.